Let's take another call now. Angie's on the line. Morning, Angie.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Good to have you here with us. Explain your situation.
Okay, very briefly. I am a pensioner. I'm not on benefits, so I'm sort of on the cusp, as it were. I'm living currently in rented accommodation. I've been in rented for the past 18 months. I am going to hopefully be moving into a property of my own, probably somewhere around November time. And my question is, what do I do about suppliers? I'm currently with a supplier. I know that the property I will be moving into, hopefully, is with a different supplier that I'm not with. What should I do? What would the situation be?
Really good question, that, because there are lots of people, people don't really think about this, but lots of people in the next few months will be moving house and facing the same things. Emma, what should Angie do?
Indeed. So when you move house, it's more likely than not that your supplier won't let you take that fixed tariff with you. So you will have to start again, which basically means you'll be moving on to an SVT.
It's not a fixed tariff. I lost my fixed tariff, so I'm on the standard variable with my current energy supplier anyway.
Okay, so you'll be on an SVT when you move as well. Before you move, let your electricity and your gas supply know that you're moving. Give them at least 48 hours notice. Make sure you read your meter readings and keep a note of those readings. If you can, get a timestamp on those as well, so you've got some proof to back you up in the event of your suddenly high final bill. And give your supplier a forwarding address so that they can contact you, and make sure that they're aware and you're aware that you have 28 days to pay that final bill as well. So you don't get any debt collectors chasing you or anything like that. But the reality is that, you are going to be moved onto an SVT. And so...
will that be with the new supplier at the property I'm hoping to purchase?
Well, it's entirely up to you. You can, when you move into the property, you'll be able to approach a supplier that you want to switch to, or that you want to manage your energy supply on. And you'll be able to choose your supplier, basically. So just let your current supplier know that you're switching and you're moving to another property. And then once you move into the property, contact the supplier of your choice.
So there's an opportunity there for managers to shop around a bit, albeit it's going to be between a terrible deal and a really terrible deal.
Yeah, exactly. It depends on when you're moving as well, obviously, with the 3-month change in when the price cap will be announced. But when you move in, you will have a full choice as to whether you stick with the supplier that the property is currently registered in, or whether you switch to a completely new supplier, and whether you move from an SVT to a fixed.
Thanks for that, Emma. Best of luck with it, Angie. Good luck with the move.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. Bye-bye.
Good to speak to you. Thanks so much for that. Rich has been in touch saying, should you wait to see what the government does before entering into a fixed rate? 'Cause I suppose that's a big question there. We're talking about, you could lock in now at 4,000, but then obviously the government comes along and says, well, we're going to limit it. What if they restrict the predicted increases, says Rich. Abby, it is an interesting question, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it just comes back to what Martin was saying around there's just so much uncertainty at the moment that it's really hard to give people advice even on what they should do. I'd say, again, as Emma said, it's about balancing certainty versus possibly paying more. So it comes back to what you value. But I think, if he wants to wait and see what the government might do, or to see where prices go, then I think that makes sense.
It probably makes sense, given that hopefully we might know what the new government's going to do in the next fortnight or so. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're not going to have the news, so we're going to drop the news and we're going to carry on because we've got so many questions and calls and people lined up. So we'll obviously bring you the midday update at 12 o'clock. So we'll have a full half-hour bulletin then. I should have asked, actually. You both happy to stay for a bit longer to do a few more calls? Good, that's the correct answer. Lovely stuff. Let's go to Sam's on the line. Morning, Sam.
Good morning.
What's you're particularly concerned about students? Another interesting question, this. Go on.
I've got two children who are one's doing an NGD, one's doing a PhD. They're on fixed stipends, 16,500. No increase will be, one's already 2 years in and one's got another 2 years. The other one is just about to start. Everything I've been hearing is about people on universal credit, people on benefits, people on low incomes, but nothing referring to their situation. And obviously they are on a low income, and one of my children is taking on an extra, some teaching this year, already working 40 hours in the lab, is going to take a module on to try and earn an extra bit of money, a few £100 just to try and cover the additional costs that are coming from their landlords about, obviously increased rents as well as things. And is there anything that's been said about this kind of situation that your people know about. I'm really worried for them.
Abby, it's an interesting point that Sam's making, is that clearly children made the decision 2, 3, 4 years ago. I think I can make it work on $6,500 a year. I've worked it all out. I've crunched my numbers. I think I can make it work. And along comes this juggernaut and just blows all those calculations up.
So students are a little bit forgotten in this, particularly if you pay your energy through some kind of, if your landlord pays your energy as well.
I suppose actually lots of just university students who don't even get the $6,500. They might again have thought, well, their parents could give them that much. That's enough to live on. I've done my numbers. You're about to go to university next month, and suddenly the numbers don't add up at all.
Yeah, so there's the £400 grant which government has put in place. If you don't pay your energy bill yourself, then that you won't even see that money, because it will go to whoever does pay your energy bill, so the landlord, and
no guarantee that they then pass that on.
Exactly, yeah. No guarantee that is reduced. So it's again really based on trust. I think that the first thing I'd say is do get in touch probably have a look locally to see if there's any support available locally. There is a household support fund that can offer people support. There's also support that you could get possibly from your energy supplier if you are the person who pays the bill, and obviously failing that, do get in touch with Citizens Advice. There's lots of information on our website, and you can call us as well. But it's completely right. It's a bit of a sort of support black hole for students and renters in some cases. And
one of the things that you wanted to mention as well, Abby, was the affordability. But if you do get into trouble, you should. What are the starting points? Should be to go to your energy company.
The first thing you should do, so if you're looking at the numbers today and you think there's just no way I'm going to be able to afford this, and actually for direct debits, your energy company might not wait until October to put them up, because the point of a direct debit is to sort of build up to some degree reserves for winter. So it could well be that people see their bills go up, even in the next couple of days. It depends on your energy supplier's policies. If you look at those numbers and you think there's just no way I'm going to be able to pay my bill, please get in touch with your energy company. There's a few things they can do. There's the support that they are regulated, that they are obligated to offer you. So if you want to have a more affordable payment plan or repayment plan if you're in debt, they're obliged to give that to you. If you are on a prepayment meter, they're obliged to give you emergency credit to tide you over, as long as you haven't had it multiple times and it's in your interest. So that there is support out there. They can also give you a referral to debt advice. The first thing I'd say is get in touch with the energy company.
Yeah, as a starting point. Sam, is that of some help?
Yeah. No, it's the other thing. Can I just add in? One of my children suffers with very severe asthma, so in the winter having decent heating is really important, or otherwise it's hospitalisation.
Yeah.
I mean that's already happened because of last year. Because of trying to keep heating up. Is there does anybody know of anything would that be a case going back to the energy companies with mitigating circumstances to see if they can help out with a grant?
That's exactly. There's lots of nodding here, Sam. So that sounds like the right thing to do, to go to definitely start. I think that's one of the overriding messages of all these things is don't worry about making a fuss. Keep prodding everyone. Prod your energy companies, contact local charities, get onto Citizen Advice, lots of... Yes, and Emma.
I would also say for students specifically, there is something called a hardship fund that some universities offer. If you're really struggling, it's not linked to student finance, but if you're really struggling, you can get in touch with the university directly. You can show them your bank statements and show them the state of your finances and why you're worried, and show them that you actually can't afford to pay your bills. And there is a budget there that they can allocate that can actually help you cover those essential costs.
Some top ideas as well, for students.
Yeah, and one other thing to add to the £400 energy grant, if you're renting and your bills are included in your tenancy and your landlord is reluctant to pass it on, you could suggest paying reduced rent between October and March. Just to kind of claw back some of that money, so you could ask for it to be given to you in the form of a monthly discount.
Discount on your rent. Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks so much for your call, Sam. Best of luck with it, and best of luck to your children as well.
All right, bye.
Good to speak to you. Thanks a lot. Let's go to Ian now. I like questions like this because it's a question that I've thought myself, but luckily Ian can ask it instead. Morning, Ian, and how are you doing?
Morning, Matt. Morning to you guests. I'm confused about smart meters. We've had one for a few months now. I lost the the indoor reader thing broke. So I use the Hugo app and I'm connected to my meter so I can see the daily usage. But I'm a bit confused because if I've got one of these meters and it's showing me the exact usage that we are doing and it's helping me to cut back, etc. But I'm also paying a fixed direct debit. I get both gas and electricity from the same supplier. So I don't understand how that works. Surely I'm supposed to be charged on what I use.
Yes, exactly right. So I was in a slightly similar situation to you, Ian. We lost our smart meter. We did some decorating and anyway, we found it. I've plugged it back in. So we're all back up and running again. But Emma, why, if you've got a smart meter, why are we still being charged big monthly direct debits?
Well, there's various issues with the smart meters. It's a huge debate at the moment across the energy industry and with households. First of all, if you've got a first generation smart meter, it might not actually be working properly. It might be too old. If you've switched your supplier, it might not be compatible with your new supplier. So there might be some issues there and it might not be sending the readings. Some smart meters send readings every 30 days. They're trying to kind of streamline this to 30 minutes across the board, but there are some meters out there that are still sending those readings once a month. So it could be that it's not taking readings as often as it should be. They also transmit data wirelessly, so if there issues like thick walls or poor signal can actually impact that. So your readings might not be that accurate. So I would get in touch with your supplier and ask them to come and service your meter or see if they can replace it if it's faulty. There's plenty, if you have a quick search on Times Money Mentor, there's plenty of tips on there on how to spot a dodgy or a faulty smart meter. There's lots of little tips and tricks that you can do to kind of work out if it's accurate or not. So have a go at those and see how you get on.
But I suppose part of the point as well is that they're sort of based on your usage, modelling a 12-month average so that you don't have massive bills in the winter and then lower bills in the summer. So there's probably a bit of that going on as well, rather than almost pay as you go just based on what's on the meter. Yeah,
exactly. So the idea of paying by direct debit is that you do build that reserve. So and suppliers do try to do that to help reduce some of the pressure on households over the colder months. Yeah. So there is an element of that going on too.
But I mean, you can just get the money back as well, can't you?
Yeah, so if I think sort of industry like standard or agreement is that a supplier shouldn't be keeping more than 2 months worth of your credit as a credit balance. So actually, and as I said, there are also rules to protect you if you just can't pay and you need a sort of more affordable payment or repayment plan. So again, get in touch with your energy company. You might be able to negotiate it down. We've seen a lot of people do that.
Do you know, it's interesting that because I think the other day I looked and I think I'd got about £350 in credit, which probably was more than 2 months worth a couple of months ago, and now probably isn't. It's probably worth keeping it in store. Was that of some help, Ian? It sounds like at the very least, you could, if you've got a lot of money built up in reserve, you could ask for some of that back.
Yeah, that is very helpful because there's only two of us, and we've been energy conscious for a while. I mean, the minute that this all started to be debated, we've been looking at things carefully. We've been cutting down things, unplugging things. We're getting a water meter fitted, but I just couldn't see the correlation between seeing on the screen what I'm using and then getting this fixed bill every month. But that was really helpful.
I think basically what's happened to some extent is that they are monitoring what you're using. That is being used to fix your bill, but they're just building up a massive stockpile of everyone's money. And at the end of the year, they'll give you some of that back. But if you want it back now because you're worried, you can go and ask for it back. Ian, good to speak to you. Thanks so much for coming on this morning. We really need to hear what Liz Truss is going to do, and she's been determined not to tell us.
Indeed, no, I completely agree. I also think one of Rishi's policies is this 5% cut on VAT, on taking that 5% off energy household bills with the VAT cut, but that's a 5% cut in the grand scheme of things. Energy bills are going up 80% in October, so it's really not going to make a huge impact, is it, at the end of the day, even if that was to go through?
And I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? There's sort of the little tinkering, take a bit of here, a bit off there. What this is going to end up being is actually more akin, Abby, to what we saw in the pandemic. Massive, bold, radical, hugely expensive government intervention.
So given the scale of price rises, I think we need really big ideas on the table. I think Rishi's right that targeted support is really important. At Citizens Advice, we're seeing every day that people are really, really struggling on the ground. So it's absolutely right that people on benefits, people on low incomes, people who are going to be pulled into poverty but may be comfortable right now, they're the people who really need support. But it's true that everyone's going to feel this.
Okay, let's do some more calls now. I think we've got Chris is on the line. Morning, Chris.
Morning, Matt. I called in. I started looking at the bills, as I expect lots of other people, and I noticed a couple of things. First of all, the daily charge had gone up by 50%, and I couldn't work out why. So I got in touch. I had all sorts of problems getting in touch with the company. I got cut off. I spoke to somebody who said didn't know. Raised a complaint. I got a 475-word reply saying, "Yeah, we can do this if we like," more or less. So I'm waiting for them to tell me why they've done that. But I can't see it. The energy cost has gone up. Yeah, I get that. I don't understand why the delivery cost and everything else has gone up. But apparently they say they're allowed to do it. And the other thing is, when I started talking to them and digging, I found I got an email from them saying, "Oh, sorry about this. We're going to pay £850 back," which I didn't realise they would do. Yeah, it's just taken that amount of money, And I asked them if the calculation's right, and they said, "Yeah, it's all right," and it clearly wasn't.
Well, you sound like we should put you in charge of everyone's bills by the side of it, Chris. It's good you've got. It's such an interesting point there because you don't notice unless you keep on top of this, and maybe this will problem for people. You might have suddenly built up loads of money, or they've redone it. So constantly prodding people seems to be a good point. But Emma, go on. Sorry, Chris.
I think you're absolutely right. And the thing is, I think we're looking at big numbers. I mean, if we're talking about 20, 30 pence a day or whatever, not a great. But hold on, multiply that by 30, and if you're short of cash, it's still money worth having. And I'm absolutely convinced they know what they're doing, and it's taken me a good couple of hours to get someone to actually say, "Oh, we've raised a complaint and we'll get back to you."
Yeah.
No one knew the answers, and it shouldn't be like that.
I don't know, either of you across why, because it's one thing we totally understand the price of gas has gone up, so therefore if you're using more gas, but the service price, the delivery charge, if you like, it hasn't gone up, or has it?
Yeah, so it's a really tricky one. The reason why the standing charge has gone up is because of all the energy companies who failed last year, partly because of all the energy companies that failed last year. They're using the standing charge to recover the costs of, the multi-billion cost of energy companies failing. So that's why the standing charge has gone up. But again, it's these really difficult trade-offs.
So where's that money going?
It's a mixture of the cost of sort of paying for like the transition for an energy company via an administrator to a new company effectively.
Yeah.
But if you remember last year, there were 30 energy companies that failed. So
yeah.
effectively, a huge part of the market was wiped out, which is why the standing charge has gone up so much. But it's another cost. It's the worst time. Another cost amongst so many that's going to make people's lives really difficult.
And in part, the reason they went bust was because all these businesses started up and they based on one set of numbers, and then suddenly their cost essentially of buying in the gas went up, and that's why they went bust. I'm sure that's probably not a huge amount of help, Chris, but at least you now know why it's gone up, even though we can't do very much about it. But the moral of Chris's story is, Chris, just keep prodding, and then you might get some money back.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And again, and I'm sure there's a reason, but they should be upfront about it and tell us, not bury it in 475. One other question, I know, I guess you guys and the experts know. My understanding is the cost of getting gas out of the ground hasn't changed. Right, it still costs the same when it comes out of the ground, and it's the first tank it goes into. So where is all this money going to? It must be traders, presumably.
Yeah, it's that's exactly what it is. It's just there's less gas about. So there's less gas about. Yeah. There's a bidding war to buy it, and then we are the ones who end up having to pay the difference. Good to speak to you, Chris, and well done for being our very own Martin Lewis, prodding at big companies and getting some money back. Good to speak to you, Chris. Thanks a lot for that. We've got, is it Mark on the line now? Can we speak to Mark? Morning, Mark.
Yeah, morning, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all. Where you come from? What's your situation?
Sheffield. I'm in the same boat as everybody else. It's a nightmare that's gradually unfolding, and there's nothing we can do to stop it at the moment. The specific thing that's also worrying me, though, is something I've not heard anyone talking about so far, which is credit reference agencies.
Yeah.
Utility bills nowadays are reported into credit reference agencies. So that means as people gradually get into more and more problems, paying on time, paying at all, whatever, it's then going to have this compounding effect in the background all the time, where you're going to be getting black marks on your file for 3 years, which are just going to sit around, and it will mean a lot of people are not going to be able to access usual sort of funding mechanisms, and they're going to be pushed into the dark market for it.
Emma, it's a really good point, that, isn't it?
It is. So if you're struggling with your bills, the best thing to do is to obviously speak to your supplier and let them know that you're struggling. But and when you approach your supplier and you tell them they're struggling, they should sort of spring into action and offer you things like payment plans or payment breaks and such measures. But and the thing is, when you're put on a payment plan, they can't suddenly just put a default on your credit file.
I was going to ask that. So if you basically do the right thing, get on a payment plan, and you're then paying based on that payment plan, you're doing the right thing and you're meeting the contract essentially. So you don't then get that sort of black mark against your name.
Exactly. So you're meeting your monthly payments when you're on that payment plan. It's a reduced amount, but you're still paying your bills every month. So they can't mark you as you've missed a payment on your credit report, which would then obviously affect your ability to get credit in the future. But they can't do that if you're on a payment plan because you're technically paying your bills.
Abby.
Yeah, Emma's completely right. But again, it just shows how mad the situation is, that actually if the cost of a loaf of bread went up threefold and you couldn't afford it, and then that was seen to be effectively an act that would have an impact on your credit rating down the line or something, it would be seen as mad. But that is literally what's happening right now. We're also really concerned that people, if they can't keep up with their direct debits, they might be moved to a prepayment meter, and we know the costs to keep yourself on keep the heating and lights on are going to be upwards of something like £600 in January. So really worried about that, and that's another thing that government and Ofgem need to be really looking at.
Well, see what, I'm going to let you Mark I'm going to let you go there because I think it's good to speak to you, but I just want to bring in Eileen, because Eileen was bringing up exactly that point. Morning, Eileen.
Morning.
You wanted to talk about prepayment meters in particular.
I did. I just wondered how you look at the most vulnerable in society, and it's that group usually. They're not very good at filling in forms, so applying for stuff. How are they going to deal with these people and all the platitudes about, just speak to your company and blah? These people don't have the capacity often to do those things. Who's going to look after them? How are they going to be dealt with?
It is this madness situation, isn't it, Abby? That the people who paid the most for each bit of gas and electric are the poorest people because they're on these prepayment meters.
Absolutely. Yeah. And prepayment meters expect so much from people. You have to, for example, if we take the example of discount or the energy rebate that's coming this winter, you'll get a text or a letter, and you'll have to take that to your local PayPoint provider or equivalent and get the support in the form of a voucher, which then you walk back and then you put on your prepayment meter. So actually there's a lot of admin and difficulty associated with that, whereas for people who pay by direct debit, that it will just come straight off your payment. So actually, there's a lot being expected. I'd say this group that we're talking about, people who are in more vulnerable situations, they are the people who both need the most support and will need the most government intervention to get support to them. So that's why something like support via the benefit system, we're even thinking support via child benefit, because that reaches a wider sort of just about managing group. That might be another way to get support to people. But again, it's a policy question which we'd hope that politicians would be thinking about right now. But obviously we haven't heard anything.
Absolutely everyone's thinking about, apart from the people who can do anything about it. Last couple of quick thoughts. I mean, my main things that I've taken away as a sort of innocent bystander in all of this: keep contacting your companies, tell them what's going. Don't get into a pickle. Go to them, tell them you can't cope, and they've got to help you. Is that right, Emma?
Yeah, don't keep it to yourself. Don't struggle in silence. If you're worried about your bill, or you're already defaulting, or you're looking at your wages and you're thinking I'm not going to be able to afford my next my heating bill in January, speak to your supplier. Let them know in advance. If it's the same if you're falling behind on your rent, speak to your landlord and open that discussion. It's only when they know what's going on that they can offer you support, but also that way you can sort of protect your credit file and avoid any things like defaults, which can obviously stay on your file for 6 months and escalate. So the big message here is to speak to anyone involved and make sure you're very transparent about any struggles that you're facing.
Yeah. Abby, your last thought?
Absolutely. Do get in touch with your energy company if you're worried. And again, just hoping that we get a plan soon, because it's unthinkable, it's mad, and the situation on the ground is already so difficult and it's likely to get significantly worse.
Yeah, we've had so many messages on that front. Sorry, Eileen, I don't know if Eileen's still there, but thank you, Eileen, for your call. Really appreciate you coming on this morning. I've had so many messages, and hopefully, even if we didn't get you on, then we've managed to answer your question a bit. Mike says, this basically sums up the mood of our entire timeline, really. Neither of the leadership candidates, and obviously the current one, wouldn't know what effective leadership looked like if it fell on their heads. It's true to say that nobody can predict the future, but on rising energy bills and the actions needed to mitigate them, that's a very weak argument to rely on. Thank you so much for all of you for getting in touch, for sharing your stories. Thank you to Emma Mumbo, Deputy Editor at the Times Money Mentor, and Abhi Jitendra, Principal Policy Manager at Citizens Advice. Quick thing, web addresses, how can people find your details?
Times, Emma Munbode at Twitter, and Times Money Mentor. If you have a quick Google, you'll be able to find our page with lots of support for anyone struggling.
Fantastic. And Abby, Citizens Advice?
Google Citizens Advice. We've been around since the dawn of the Second World War, and we're here to help you. Have a look on our website.
Fantastic. We really appreciate your time, Abby and Emma. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll do the